Thank you all so much for being here. You are at the Poetry of the Pandemic event presented by the Jacksonville Library. My name is Rena Pryor. I'm the branch manager at the Jacksonville Library. This is actually our first virtual event, so I'm really excited that you are all here, and I'm pretty new to Zoom and how it all works, so bear with me because I'm very likely to make a mistake. I just am really excited to have all this amazing talent, and I hope that this might be the first of many of such events that we have. So since you're here, I think almost all of you must know how to navigate our website because you used our event calendar, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of cool things that the library is doing right now. So I'm going to quickly share my screen. Some of you may know about this, but we have, let's see. Hopefully you're seeing right now, we have this 3-month-long county-wide, library system-wide Rogue Reads, which is highlighting a particular author. Her name is Jacqueline Woodson. She's written many books for all ages of people. And as you can see, there's all kinds of events that are surrounding it. There's some make and takes that go along with it, book discussion groups. And the author herself is going to be speaking for our system on February 21st. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to go ahead and come back to this site and sign up for that. The seating, so-called seating, is somewhat limited on that. Anyway, what else? So I wanted to introduce our first presenter. Before I do so, I just need to mention that the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the presenters, do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Jackson County Library Services. But our first poet to speak is Kathleen Pyle. I'll tell you just a little bit about Kathleen. She moved to Jacksonville from Iowa in 1996. She has a background in science-based field education programs, nonprofit marketing, journalism, and horticulture. Her special poetic passion is for the natural and human history of this area, which she explores in a blog called Field Station. All right, Kathy, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Rena. We're delighted to be here sharing our poetry at the end of a beautiful day. And we very much appreciated being invited to participate in this very first online programs sponsored by the Jacksonville Library. We 5 poets from Ashland, Central Point, and Jacksonville are happy to share our work for the next hour. If you like poetry, write poetry, or have an interest in learning the craft of poetry, we encourage you to visit the Oregon Poetry Association website. I put the URL in the chat, along with links to some local writing groups that are holding virtual open mics and meetings during the pandemic. The Oregon Poetry Association, or OPA, will publish an anthology of pandemic poetry available next month. They also sponsor spring and fall poetry contests. Details and deadlines are online. And now for our first reader, Sally Ehrman. Sally has many poems in print and many awards framed on her wall. All that pales to the thrill of teaching poetry to 4th graders at Bellevue Elementary in Ashland. Sally?
Thank you, Kathy. This first poem I'm going to read is Blue Ink on Black Paper. New glittery pens will write new glittery poems, I hope. A small investment in my career, a small investment in joy. Seeing the shiny turquoise ink flow across the black paper causes me to keep writing. Tonight, when my daughter Jade arrives home, she exclaims at the smell. It was hours ago I steamed Romanesco. This time, I bring sage with me to her house to expel the cruciferous odor she has complained about. It doesn't work, apparently. And besides, she hates sage, she tells me. She declares that I can cook cruciferi at my house when the kids are visiting, but not at her house. Not even a metallic gel pen can take away that stink. 2, before bed, I phone Jade because of a technological problem. I can't find the button that turns the ringer off on my new landline phone. I ask her to call so I can check a couple different buttons. Still, the phone rings. During one of our conversations, she recants and allows that I can cook any vegetables I want at her house anytime I'm there. Maybe the blue ink is magical. Thank you. The next reader is Charlotte Abernathy. She came to poetry late after a 30-year career as a visual artist and has found great joy in painting with words. She has organized and managed poetry competitions, completed 10 chapbooks, won many local and regional awards, and participates in local readings and in 2 critique groups.
Thank you, Sally. My first poem, called Meanwhile, is about facing up to new challenges like the pandemic. Meanwhile, deep down, we know life will never be the same after all that has happened. Deep down, we know life has never been the same. So much has always happened. Meanwhile, we know what we need to know to do what we need to do. Deep down, we are still human. We can love and laugh, hope and be kind. While we still breathe, we can cope. Our next reader is Dan Kaufman. Dan lives near Jacksonville. He's active in the Rogue Valley poetry community. His writing has appeared in print and online and has been recognized by the Oregon Poetry Association. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, Charlotte. It's a pleasure to join with these other fine poets tonight. I'm a lover of language, and for me, one of the fascinating aspects of the pandemic has been how it's affected how we speak to each other. One of the words that I've focused on is unprecedented, and that's what my poem is about. This begins with a quote from Desmond Tutu: "Language creates what it describes." Unprecedented. We rightly praise language for coherence, its nuance, for dazzle, its considerable span. Yet even qualified words struggle to express origination, paradox, landscapes still too molten to define. Isolation gone viral. Holidays as harbingers of sorrow. Nurses needing healing. Obituaries overwhelming other news. We could use some fresh descriptors, a latest lingua franca for that anomalous promontory, this singular swamp, the staggering experience grown exponential, for the breathtaking, sadly blanded by cliche. Rena has already introduced our next poet, so it's my pleasure to present Kathleen Pyle.
Thank you, Dan. This first poem is called 4 Ways of Looking at Stay Home. Habitat. When leaving a lifeless office, one last grab, a plastic feeder suspended out the window. Its red buzz-up flowers will lure hummers home until my real garden blooms. Bloom where you are replanted. Your daily bread. A new recipe for this layoff. Oatmeal bread. Steel-cut oats soaked overnight can absorb any amount of tears and swell into a lofty sponge, a dreamy loaf. It took a week to find whole wheat flour. I will rise again, I am yeast, my chant while kneading. Purification blues. An old first aid kit holds all the armaments: alcohol, peroxide, tea tree oil. Soap must foam to sanitize. Sing happy birthday for the dead as you wash. Soon it will be your birthday. And when this ritual ends, you will be old with clean hands. Grounded. You may find you as you clean closets, dig down into forgotten laundry. No escaping those old t-shirts now. Forget house cleaning lists. This is the time to finger rosaries of what ifs and why nots. Adventure stories you saved for winter reading. Rare butterflies, rocky Sierra rambles, while living on carrots and dry bread might become your new real life. And now I'd like to introduce our next poet, Lauren Winter. Laurel Winter has won awards for poetry and a World Fantasy Award. She's the author of Growing Wings, a middle grade novel, and her most lucrative poem was originally written on 2 hard-boiled eggs. Laurel?
Thank you. I'm going to start with one that I wrote relatively early in the pandemic, around the time of the first stimulus check. Umbra Monday, the world shadow. We walk through its valley, circumnavigating couch, kitchen table, maybe the backyard if we're lucky enough to have one. We circle our fear, circle loneliness, circle dwindling well of savings. Will we have enough food, ventilators, toilet paper? What will the world look like when the shadow lifts? Will we be among those emerging from the caves? Will our friends, parents, lovers be there? When can we touch them and breathe without a mask? How many nurses will close their eyes forever? How many cashiers, delivery drivers? How many businesses will stay dark? And will our $1,200 pay for all the small business loans, the unemployment, the big biz bailouts? Umbra Mundi, the world shadow. But the light will come. The light will come. And now we're going to circle back around to Sally again.
Thank you, Laurel. This poem is entitled Hands. I hadn't seen him in months, not since I broke up with him, except for that day downtown when I heard some male voice call my name. It was him. I stopped. He crossed the street. We didn't hug each other. We were both wearing masks to shield us from the coronavirus, which is a phrase I hope to soon exclude from my poetry. Then the wildfires ravage 2 towns. His bank burns down. The Thai restaurant we used to frequent. The donut shop we would go to before starting out on a day trip. I call him to ask if his home is safe. He had to evacuate, but now he's back. We go for a walk in my Ashland neighborhood, totally unharmed by fire. Because we stroll side by side, the backs of our hands touch once in a while from the rhythm of our steps. I swear I want to hold his hand, not because I am still in love with him, but because we are both alive. And now to Charlotte again.
Thanks, Sally. This poem is for people who may not be in the front lines of the fight against COVID-19, but are suffering from the feeling of isolation that has come with this pandemic. So I hope that they can find some solace and renewal in time spent alone. The poem is called, I Wish You Moments Like This. You bask in winter sunshine by the big window, contented as a cat. Pardon me. Feel warmth, ease your stiff shoulders and knees and hands. Sounds melt into a blur. Time slows. You close your eyes, relishing the sense of peace, so unexpected in this time of troubles. You savor this calm moment in the sun, this quiet, safe moment of your own as the world goes on spinning. And now we'll hear from Dan again.
Thank you, Charlotte. There's been a lot of emphasis during the pandemic on the new normal. My hope is that eventually we'll be able to return to some things that are a little more familiar. So this is called the old normal. At last a time came when you could no longer tell, as if there'd been no days, of weeks, of months, of immobility, when you could once again book rides in a stranger's car that smelled of sandalwood and Armor All, or drive yourself somewhere you'd be a stranger, spend pricey nights in a tired room, not sleeping. Like before, you could jostle aboard graffitied buses, strap grip through garbled stations in a sardined subway train. Or you could take off for the bluest yonder, respiring united air, suspended so that lagging hours echoed or dissolved. Time came when a novel virus no longer tore your ticket, and you could stroll again the 8-lane decks of a fancy saturated cruise ship, free to acquire more conventional contagion. And now it's my pleasure once again to present to you Kathleen Pyle.
Thank you, Dan. And now it's time to step outside. My strongest solace during the pandemic has been to hike the local trails. And on those trails, I found my personal symbol for the pandemic, not of resilience, but of personal transformation. And that is in the presence of madrone trees. This poem is called Madrone Grove. As if a group of spring naked dancers aren't surprised when you stop, want to touch their bending supple ecstasy on a south-facing ridge. As if aging has burned its rhythm into wood. Solid eulogizes fat. Wrinkles ring the joints of uplifting arms. There is rejoicing when all the leaves rain down. As if no color remains the same, only difference stays. Every layer plays the skin game. So peel, peel, peel into becoming. Red season becomes green, snakes away, beautifies. Rather messy in the garden. As if bumblebees really could jive all the bells on those trees, buzzing pollen into little fruits. Another miracle, becoming berries, sweetened for robin thieves when December embitters everything else. As if arbitrary arbutus landed here just for us, and a small sect near the Texas border, and Irish and Spanish cousins. Those in Mexican cloud forests welcome their own butterfly. And now Laurel.
I love that. Peel, peel, peel. All right. This, I volunteered to be last because my last part is kind of humorous. And it's like, okay, so what's humorous about a pandemic? Well, you've got to find laughter or you don't get through anything. So this one is 2 very short poems. I'm calling them Pandemic Duo. 1, maybe you've lost your job to the pandemic or your home to wildfire or hurricanes, now through the alphabet of names and on to Greek letters. Good news, FEMA is hiring. 2, Pandemic Girl, the new superhero, able to withstand small buildings without a single visitor. And thank you so much. It's been a lovely, I'm going to clap out loud to all the poets. I enjoyed that so much.
I just want to say, I'm looking here at the chat just to see if anybody has any questions. I'm not seeing anything, any comments.
This is Joanna.
Oh.
The chat is not giving us access to be able to send private notes to individuals. It can only give, we can give notes to everyone.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes, I don't know if you know how to do that, but after this closes, if you'd like me to try and figure it out with you, I can help.
Oh, well, I'll thank you for that feedback. I will try and figure it out for sure. I don't know how to do it right at the moment.
It should be in your settings.
Oh, okay.
I can do that.
Okay, thanks, Carrie.
Actually, I'm sorry, I can't do that. In our settings, we do have it set up to where you either have to chat publicly or not at all.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to do was send Kathy a note saying that when she mentioned a URL for the OPA, I didn't see it in the chat.
There's
It's right there at the top. Unfortunately, when I cut and pasted all the contacts, they all kind of jumbled into each other, but it's OregonPoets.org.
Yeah, I still don't see it.
It says it's from Dawn. That might be a little confusing because Kathy's computer said Dawn at the beginning.
I just repasted it for everyone, so it should be in there now.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Carrie. Does anybody else have anything?
I have a question. I'd love to know, how did you set aside time every day? Any of you can answer this. Did you set aside time to write poetry, or did you just write as it came to you?
Well, I can tell you, I don't have any set schedule for anything in my life. So whenever I see something that intrigues me or a word comes in my mind that's interesting, or it's just a momentary inspiration, which I never let drop. I always start right then. And most of the time it doesn't come into a real poem, but sometimes it does. So it's just whenever I feel like it.
And sometimes I'll get into the rhythm of writing every day, just making myself, even if it means, oh, I'm going to bed, I haven't written anything, I'll write a haiku. But I love doing art and writing on black paper. And I had started this notebook a while ago, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to revisit this black notebook as my daily writing. And it really is cool to write in silver or gold or blue or pink, things that show up there. It's just a different way of coming to the page, and fun.
I'll echo what Charlotte said in terms of catching a snippet from a conversation or maybe something from the news, something that just kind of twerks you a little bit, and you write it down. And we've all got a little bit more free time now than we used to. So at some point you sit down and you go over those notes that you have, and sometimes things come together in an unusual way.
I always have Moleskine available, and I do morning pages every day, 3 pages longhand, 8.5 by 11. I guess it's 9 by 12 right now. But I also do what I call the Bradbury Challenge readings. So I read a short story, a poem, and an essay or some other nonfiction every day. And I frequently get some poetry out of that. For example, I'm going through a spread in the Times Concise Atlas of World History every day. And there was a picture in maps of the slave trade in colonial America, 1519 to 1783. And I just wrote a black shadow on the red and blue map today. So things like that, you know, you can get it from anywhere, but I make sure to feed myself lots of different stuff every day.
And for me, the pandemic was good timing in that April is Write a Poem a Day month. It's National Poetry Month. And Amy Miller, who's a well-known local poet, organizes a group. And we all share our poetry online every day during the month of April. So that was a very productive month for me in terms of writing poetry.
There is a question in the chat about what was the process to choose poets. Kathy, do you or Dan, would you like to address that?
Well, I think initially Rena selected Kathy and I because we both live near Jacksonville, where she's the branch manager of the Jacksonville Library. And we just reached out to several of our poet friends and asked them if they were interested in participating.
And I'd like to add that if any of you are interested in participating in future programs, please contact Dan or myself or Rena and let us know. And we'll be sure to get in touch about that possibility.
Definitely. I'm thinking we definitely, at the very least, we need to do a post poetry of the pandemic, don't we?
Definitely.
If not before then. There is a question, where do you share online? Do you share on Instagram?
I don't share online anywhere.
No, me neither.
I don't either.
Only during the month of April, I share on a Facebook group page. But that's the only time I share virtually, other than this event.
We've never had any need to do that before because we've always been able to meet in person. So we're trying to explore new ways to share. This
Looks like Joyce has a question.
I just wanted to thank you all. I knew this was coming up, and I have so many, I feel so close to so many of you. And I just wanted to hear the sound of your voices and your work and what you've been doing. And I just felt, well, this is wonderful. I get to see everyone and hear such, such wonderful work, and it's just uplifting, and being here and just onlooking. I hope you didn't mind.
Nice to see and hear you, Joyce.
We'll see you around. We should all be safe and well, and writing, and keep writing. As we'll keep writing, won't we? And we'll unloose the world with words. That's all. Bye-bye. Thank
That's
you.
a very lovely idea. Thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate having you all here, and come back again. We'll do this again sometime.